Hello everybody, my name is David and this is the first episode in my landscape composition series. In each one of these episodes I will select one of my landscape photos and I will go through with you and show you what elements of composition I've used in order to create the photo. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so in this episode we are going to look at color theory, symmetry, converging lines, reflections, linear perspective, and leading lines. So let's go in order and let's look at color theory first of all. Now, as you can see in this photo, the two most prominent colors are blue and yellow. Okay, so if you go and have a look at the color wheel, blue and yellow are opposite to one another, which means that they are complementary colors. And as he explains here, this type of combination provides a high contrast and high impact color combination. Together, these colors will appear brighter and more prominent. Okay, so this photo was taken at about 10 past 9 p.m. in June in London. And at the time of year, you are during that is during the blue hour, hence the blue color in the photo. Okay, and as you can see, that works really well with the yellow from the buildings. So that is something you might want to consider when you when you are planning your shoot. Might want to consider what the light is at the time of year, what colors you're going to have around, and make sure that you pick a time where it will work well, where the colors will work well together. Okay, it's not always possible, but that will make a difference. As an example, if you go on Google Street View and you look at the view from the bridge where I took the photo, you see all the colors in here are really grey, uninteresting. So colors can make a big difference. Okay, so other thing you need to think of, once you arrive on location. In my case, I was shooting from. Let me show you there. I was on Tower Bridge. Okay, so I was shooting from the bridge just there, and I was facing west in that direction. Now, the first thing you need to consider is how are you going to frame the photo. So what I normally think of is how am I going to create depth and what lines do I have there to help me. So if you look at this specific photo, in terms of lines, the main two lines you're going to have there is the two converging lines of the River Thames. Okay, so let me just so let me show you that. So you see there from the left there and from the right hand side there as well, you've got these two diagonal converging lines. Now if you go and look at the map here and you look at the river itself, you will see that those two lines are actually parallel. They're not actually converging. It's just the distance is the same on each side. However, from our perspective, from where we're standing there in this photo, they look like they are converging. That will give you a sense of perspective, which is good. It's something you're going to want to look for. And for that reason, I took this photo. I was at 24 millimeters. Okay, as I wanted to make sure that I was going to get both of those lines in the photo. And because on top of giving you perspective, those two lines, they always function as leading lines. And they lead the viewer, the person's looking at the photo, into they lead them to the photo. Okay, so that was really important for my composition. That's something that I was looking at. Another way in which you can create depth is through proper use of linear perspective. Okay, so another way we have of judging distance is based on how object diminish in size. And as an example, if you have a line, say, of trees or houses, and they go diagonally into the photo, you will see that the ones closest to you will be bigger, and the other one they get gradually smaller. In that way, you give the viewer a sense of depth. So if you look at this specific photo now, and you look at both sides there, you will see that, these buildings, and they're not all the same size, but in any case, you can still tell that if you go from this side, from there, okay, they are gradually getting smaller, and you can tell that. So in that way, the person who's looking at the photo can get a sense of depth. So through the converging lines and the diminishing size of the buildings on both sides of the river, that can give you a sense of depth. So that was something that I was looking for when I was taking the photo. Now, another thing you have in this photo, as you can see, if you look at Google Maps, right, and you look at you look there, you see well, the water looks like just a big empty space, and it does not really. It's not quite, it's not quite interesting. However, if you look at this, my photo here, you will see that the river does not look empty. Why is that? Well, there I did a long exposure. I did a 30-second exposure. So when you do a long exposure, any body of water will become very still, and it will become almost like a mirror. Almost like a perfect reflecting surface. Okay, and as you can see there, it's reflecting both the buildings on each sides. You see there, you have all the lights there as well, and you have the clouds as well being reflected in the water. Okay, so that is filling, the empty space. If for instance the sky had been completely like cloudless with no clouds there, completely clear, well, the sky will probably look too empty, and so would the water as well. And if rather than doing a 30-second exposure, you just raise the ISO and you do a shorter exposure, and you have none of the reflections in the water, well, that will be very empty, and it could possibly look like a very different photo. And another thing you want to look at, even though I wouldn't say that this photo to be like a symmetrical photo. However, you do get elements of symmetry. Once again, you see the buildings on each side being reflected in the water there. So I wanted to make sure that when I was framing, once I realized that I was going to get those reflections, I made sure to get them in the photo. Okay, they will be in, and so that's another thing I considered when I was framing the photo. Okay, so just to recap, in this photo, there's quite a few elements that together make the photo work. You have, the time of year when I took the photo, the hour when I took the photo, mixed with, the weather, camera settings, and the way the photo was composed. When you're planning your shoot, you should think of, or at this time of year, what colors will I have around, around me at that specific location, and you should, based on that, you should think, okay, so what light would I need, to make the photo work, and you should base the hour when you do the shoot based on that, and it should all be planned really, and said that, at times you just get lucky. In my case, this time I wasn't really planning for the blue hour, but I happened to be taking the photo during the blue hour, and the blue color mixed with the yellow from the lights from the buildings worked really well. Then you have the weather as well. That plays a part. It's literally stopped raining about I think it was an hour before I took the photo, and that filled the sky. You got the clouds there, and they are being reflected in the Thames as well. Otherwise, the river and the sky would have probably been too empty. And that is then mixed with camera settings as well, as I decided to do a long exposure, which allowed me to capture all the reflection of the river, okay, from the buildings and the clouds. Otherwise, the Thames would have probably not been as interesting. It would have just been empty, just choppy water, really. And then you go, composition as well. Like the main thing, when you're arriving on location is like probably the most difficult as well. Is how am I going to frame this? You see. And what normally helps me is to think, what lines do I have around, that I can use to create depth and for, create this photo. And I normally look for diagonal lines, and what I found here in this case was the obvious answer was the two converging lines from the Thames. And for that reason, I decided to shoot at 24mm. Because I wanted to make sure that both lines will be in the photo, and that mixed with the diminishing size of the buildings of both sides of the river, then gives you a really a kind of really strong sense of depth. That mixed with the weather and the colours, that all together created this photo. If you remove one element, it might still work. If you remove too many elements, the photo just won't be the same. It probably won't work. So some of these elements were planned, some of them weren't. If you spot anything that I've missed, I'll be really curious to know. Just feel free to put that in the comments down below. Overall, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it helped you. And I will be posting on a video soon. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.